Now, as world leaders discuss climate action at the UN Climate Conference in the United Arab Emirates, one term comes up a lot: 1.5 degrees. In 2015, hundreds of countries agreed to ramp up efforts to limit global warming to hit the target. Time to take stock and look at what is forecast to happen if the limit is exceeded.
Wildfires in Canada, floods in Libya, sweltering heat in Brazil, and extreme drought in the Horn of Africa. This is a world 1.2 degrees hotter than the early 1900s. A world that is edging closer to the temperature limit leaders agreed would avoid the worst impacts of climate change, 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels.
That's like a first line of defense where we want to tell the humans we need to change our behavior in order to save the planet, in order to keep the planet for future generation.
As we heat the atmosphere by burning fossil fuels, scientists say it will lead to even more extreme weather, more drought, and the disappearance of more animal and plant species. People already at risk will suffer first and more. Like this family in southern Iraq, an intense drought forced it to leave behind the countryside and settle for poverty in the city.
When there was water, we used to grow everything on our land, including vegetables, and we lived on that agriculture. But when the water started to dwindle, it would be available for 2 months, for a month, until it stopped completely.
Parts of the Middle East, Africa, or Asia may be some of the hardest hit right now, but the risk for extreme weather is increasing everywhere.
Different parts of the world are going to be affected in different way. But what we also know that those extreme events, the pattern of extreme events is also going to shift. And in the places where currently you may feel, well, we are not going to experience as much, actually that's not true.
To keep the planet habitable, plants and animals need to work with their environment. But key ecosystems like these are already starting to break down. Ice sheets are melting, permafrost is thawing, and coral reefs are dying off. Going above 1.5 degrees doesn't mean complete disaster, but any fraction of a degree makes a big difference in people's lives and the environment. According to climate scientists, we need to stop burning fossil fuels that pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere by 2050 to keep to the 1.5 degree target.
We are very, very close to 1.5, but at the same time, it shouldn't be a signal to give up a hope and do nothing. On the contrary, we need to do more in order to prevent even bigger increases in temperature.
The closer we stick to the target, the more we can hope to avoid the worst impacts of climate change.
Meanwhile, negotiators at the COP28 climate conference in Dubai are scrambling to find a workable answer to the question of how to say goodbye to fossil fuels. Scientists say it is critical that climate-warming oil, gas and coal are phased out soon to prevent irreversible ecological damage. 200 nations were called to step up to secure a final deal. The event's taking place in one of the most oil-rich regions in the world. DW correspondent Tim Schaunberg joins me from the COP28 in Dubai. Tim, the big topic this year is the global stocktake. What is it exactly?
Yeah, the stocktake is kind of an inventory. It's kind of a guideline which is given to the countries coming up in the next year. So it's looking back what has been achieved in the past years, or not, as we just heard in the report, and what is necessary in the years to come. So it's not a new pledge. It's kind of a guidebook that countries can use or should use in the years to come when they need to define their new climate targets. And this will be from next year. These new climate targets will define these countries' climate policies, mitigation targets until 2035. And this is critical. We're early. We're already talking about 2035. But this is a critical moment to give them the guidelines and to give them a clear direction where it should go. And importantly here is it's not about emissions only. It's about the entire topic of climate change. It's about adaptation. It's about where finance needs to go, how people can prepare, countries can prepare, etc., etc. So it's not limited to the discussion of fossil fuels here.
We also hear terms like phase down and phase out when it comes to fossil fuels. What's the difference and why is it important?
Yeah, exactly. As you're saying, phasing out or phasing down fossil fuels is the hot topic here, apart from the stock take. And phasing out fossil fuels is essential, as we just heard. That's what scientists say, to limit global warming. What's the difference between a phase down and a phase out? I mean, obviously, to phase out, you need to phase down. But what this conference is trying to do is giving long-term targets and long-term commitments to more than 190 countries. So we know that we need to phase out at some point. Why should we then agree on a phase down only? That's what scientists and activists say. Also, the phase down formulation in the final declaration would be much more vague, because every country would have to define, okay, what is phasing out, what is phasing down, excuse me, to what extent do we phase down. So this is a bit much more wishy-washy. If it's clear from the science to prevent extreme weather events, to prevent the devastating impacts on humanity, on nature,
Right.
and our economies, then we should phase out.
Now, among thousands of delegates at this conference, Tim, there are more than 2,000 fossil fuel representatives. What are they doing there?
Yeah, well, they are trying to push the narrative of their business model and try to be part of a climate debate. Activists are very critical against this. Obviously, what we can say, many of these lobbyists are in delegations, advising, for example, the Italian government. That's what we know. At least that's what NGOs are saying.
Right.
Then what we know is what we see, that especially the carbon capture narrative is pushed by Gulf states and the oil lobby, which is trying to sell that it's possible to keep burning fossil fuels without a phase out in a more environmentally friendly manner. But
Right.
this is not the case with this technology, and that's what we see. This narrative is trying to be pushed.
All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. Tim Schoenberg in Dubai, thanks so much.